the true face of the galaxy's deadliest predator, was stained with the blood and entrails of the alien scum who once dared to conquer our Earth. That face was the face of a human. I took a long swig of the slime the bartender called liquor and shook my head as the young Gamelon slid into the seat across from me. The pup had eagerness in his eyes, hero worship for an old soldier like me. His scales were still shiny and smooth, not yet scarred by the ravages of war. He leaned forward with a grin. "You're Samuel Brown, aren't you? The hero of the Battle of Titan, the liberator of Arcturus 9? I'm Draco, a big fan. I've studied all your campaigns. Please, I must know, how did humans become the most feared warriors in the galaxy? What's the story?" I let out a humorless chuckle. "Kid, you don't know what you're asking. The truth about how we got to the top of the food chain, it ain't pretty. You sure you want to hear it?" Draco nodded vigorously, his naivety painful to witness. "Yes, please, I want to know everything." "Fine. But don't say I didn't warn you." I leaned back, the dim lights of the bar casting shadows across my weathered face. "Our story begins centuries ago, when your kind first darkened our skies. The Gamelon Empire, led by that sadistic bastard Emperor Kroll. To him we were nothing more than primitives ripe for enslavement, but he had no idea what we were capable of when pushed to the brink." I took another swig, the liquor burning my throat. "They came in their gleaming ships, raining fire on our cities. We were outclassed in every way, technology, numbers, firepower. But what we lacked in advanced weapons, we made up for in sheer bloody-minded determination." Draco's eyes widened as I began to recount the horrors of those early days, the desperate battles where we fought tooth and nail for every inch of our planet. I could see the slow realization dawning on his face. The history he thought he knew was a sanitized lie. The real story was written in blood and anguish, a tale of a species pushed to the edge of extinction, forced to embrace our inner savagery to survive. And as I spoke, I knew he would never see humans the same way again. He would learn the true face of the monster lurking beneath our skin. The face of humanity, the galaxy's apex predator. Heaven help any fool who tried to make us prey. I downed the rest of my drink, the acrid taste lingering on my tongue as I met Draco's wide-eyed stare. The kid was starting to get it, starting to understand the depths we had to sink to in order to survive. But he still didn't know the half of it. The tide started to turn, but not before the Gamelons pulled some truly heinous shit. Frustrated that they couldn't just steamroll over us, they resorted to using banned chemical weapons, targeted our civilian population centers. I still remember the reports coming in, millions dead, choking on their own blood and bile, men, women, children. It didn't matter to those scaly bastards. My fist clenched around my empty glass, knuckles white. But all it did was piss us off, galvanize our resolve. We threw everything we had into the war effort. Our scientists worked around the clock, reverse engineering every scrap of Gamelon tech we could get our hands on. We started closing the gap fast. I leaned forward, my voice low. I was part of a raid on a Gamelon research facility, on some shithole moon they'd occupied. Me and a handful of other poor bastards, tasked with stealing the schematics for their most advanced weapon systems. It was a fucking suicide mission, but somehow we pulled it off. Lost a lot of good soldiers, but the intel we brought back, it changed everything. A grim smile tugged at the corner of my mouth. That's when we built the Dreadnought, a warship like nothing the galaxy had ever seen, bristling with enough firepower to level a planet. The first time it appeared in battle, you should have seen the terror on those Gamelon fucks' faces. One volley from its main cannons, and their ships were nothing but debris and dust. I sat back, the weight of the memories heavy on my shoulders. The Dreadnought marked a turning point. Suddenly the Gamelons were facing a human fleet that matched their tech. In some cases, even exceeded it. They weren't ready for that. Weren't ready for us. I signaled the bartender for another drink, my eyes haunted. Draco shifted uneasily in his seat, his earlier bravado gone. He swallowed hard, his voice barely above a whisper. What happened next? I looked at him, my gaze as cold and hard as steel. That's when things got really ugly. I tossed back the last of my drink, the burn barely registering as I fixed Draco with a haunted stare. With the dreadnought leading the charge, we took the fight to the Gamelons, hit 'em hard and fast, striking at their supply lines, their weapons depots, anything to cripple their ability to wage war. I let out a harsh laugh. I remember this one raid, a surgical strike on a major Gamelon refueling station. My squadron, we slipped past their defenses and lit that place up like a supernova. Watched those alien bastards scurry around like ants as their ships went up in flames. It was a thing of beauty, kid. Every explosion was a small victory, one less gun they could point at our people. My gaze turned distant, the memories flooding back. But our victories, they came with a price paid in blood and innocence. See, our leaders, they got desperate, started looking for ways to end the war no matter the cost. That's when they cooked up the Pyrrhus Protocol. I shook my head, my voice tight. They took kids, Draco, fucking kids, barely old enough to hold a rifle, strapped them up with enough nuclear ordnance to level a city, and sent them into the heart of Gamelon territory. Suicide bombers, they called them. Infiltrators. But I knew the truth. They were lambs to the slaughter. My hands clenched into fists, the knuckles white. I trained those kids, Draco. Taught them how to fight, how to survive. But in the end, I was just preparing them for their own destruction. I watched them walk off to their deaths one by one, knowing they'd never come back. And for what? To take out a few more Gamelon high-ups, to make the enemy hurt just a little bit more. I let out a shuddering breath, the weight of the past bearing down on me. I carry that guilt with me every day, kid, the knowledge that I helped send those brave young souls to their doom. And the worst part? It worked. The Pyrrhus Protocol. It turned the tide. Broke the Gamelons in ways conventional warfare never could. But the price was too damn high. Draco leaned forward, his eyes wide with a mix of horror and morbid fascination. Was that the worst of it? The darkest thing humanity did to win the war? A bitter laugh escaped my lips, echoing through the dingy bar. Oh, you naive little pup, you think that's as bad as it gets? Trust me, you don't know the half of it. The Pyrrhus Protocol was just the beginning. Just wait until you hear what we did next. I drained the last drops of the vile liquor from my glass, steeling myself for the next part of my grim tale. Draco leaned forward, his eyes wide with a mix of horror and morbid fascination. The final days of the war, that's when everything went straight to hell. My voice was rough, the words dragged from some dark place deep inside. Both sides were on their last legs, kid. Exhausted, desperate. That's when people start doing things they never thought they were capable of. The Gamelons, those bastards decided to play their trump card. Bioweapons engineered to target human DNA. I squeezed my eyes shut, the memories flooding back in vivid, nauseating detail. They hit our major cities first. New York, London, Tokyo, millions dead in the initial attacks. But that was just the beginning. The plague spread like wildfire, tearing through our populations. I watched my own family, my friends, wither away, their bodies ravaged by those twisted alien diseases. Draco shuddered, his scales rattling. I barely noticed, lost in the horrors of the past. But you know what? All it did was piss us off. The fury of the surviving humans. It was like nothing the galaxy had ever seen. We struck back with a vengeance that made the Gamelons look like fucking amateurs. I barked out a harsh laugh. Our eggheads, they tore those bioweapons apart, figured out how they ticked. Then they went one step further. They modified them, tailored them specifically to Gamelon physiology. And me? I got the honor of leading the mission to deliver our little present to the Gamelon homeworld. My voice dropped to a whisper, my eyes distant. We slipped past their defenses, just a handful of us, managed to seed their atmosphere with the modified plague, and then we watched as their civilization crumbled, watched as their people died in droves, choking on their own blood, their bodies piling up in the streets. I swallowed hard, my throat suddenly dry. It was like nothing I'd ever seen, kid. The silence that fell over their cities, it was deafening. Billions dead, an entire species brought to the brink. And the worst part? Part of me fucking reveled in it. They'd brought us to the edge and we'd pushed right back. Draco's voice was small, almost frightened. So that was it, right? The end of the war? I met his gaze, a humorless smile twisting my lips. If only it were that simple, kid. No, the worst was yet to come. I took a deep breath, the weight of the war's final days heavy on my shoulders. Draco leaned forward, his eyes wide with anticipation and dread. With the Gamelon Empire teetering on the brink of collapse, Emperor Kroll played his last desperate card, I began, my voice low and rough. The bastard had a doomsday device, a quantum singularity bomb capable of wiping out entire star systems, and he was going to set it off right in the heart of human space. I closed my eyes, the memories of those frantic hours flooding back. Our intel got wind of the plan and we scrambled to put together a mission to stop it. I led the strike team myself, hand-picked men and women, the best of the best. We knew it was a one-way trip, but what choice did we have? My fists clenched as I relived the desperate battle aboard Kroll's flagship. We fought through waves of Gamelon fanatics, clawed our way to the bomb's control room. Every step was paid for in blood, but we made it. We disabled the detonator, thought we'd saved the day. A bitter laugh escaped my lips. But the singularity core, it was already unstable. The damn thing collapsed right there on the ship. I watched as my team was torn apart, their screams echoing over the comms as they were stretched into oblivion. I shuddered, the horror of that moment still fresh in my mind. The singularity consumed the ship and everything on it. Kroll, my team, all gone in an instant. A localized space-time distortion, they called it. A fancy name for hell itself. Draco was silent, his face pale as he tried to process the magnitude of what I was describing. I pressed on, the words tumbling out in a relentless torrent. After that, both sides just stopped. We were all too shocked, too horrified by how close we'd come to total annihilation. An uneasy truce was called, but there was no real peace, no forgiveness. The scars ran too deep, the atrocities too fresh in our minds. I leaned forward, my gaze boring into Draco's. Humans and Gamelons, we retreated to our own corners of the galaxy, licking our wounds and nursing our hatred, but we never forgot, and we never forgave. My voice dropped to a whisper, each word as sharp as a knife. So you see, kid, there are no heroes in this story, no shining knights or noble warriors, just survivors, and the things we did to survive. The Gamelons thought they understood predators, thought they could control us, but they never understood the depths we would sink to in order to protect our own. They unleashed a monster, and it devoured them. I drained the last of my drink and stood, my movements heavy with the weight of memory. Draco watched, his eyes wide and haunted, as I turned and walked away. The kid had wanted to know the truth, and now he had it. The ugly, brutal reality of how humanity clawed its way to the top of the galactic food chain. As I stepped out into the grimy streets, I couldn't help but wonder if he'd ever be able to look at his own kind the same way again. Hell, I wasn't sure if I could look at myself the same way, not after reliving it all, but that was the price of survival, the burden we all had to bear. In a galaxy full of monsters, we'd become the thing that monsters feared. You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.